Good morning. It's Monday. Welcome to Manic Monday with FREA. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors, joined by your Executive Director, Ann Fagan, and a couple of special guests who we will introduce to you in just a moment as we talk about some of the issues going on in the state of Florida. We're going to talk a little bit about some emergency transportation issues here in just a moment. But just before we do, while we've got some folks that are still logging on, just a couple of housekeeping notes, especially if this is the first time that you've joined us before. All participants are in a listen only mode. And what that means is, unlike the Brady Bunch look on Zoom, if you are not one of the panelists or one of the special guests today, you won't be on screen or anything like that. But if you have a question or you want to make a comment or have a dialogue, feel free to drop it into chat or into Q&A. And that way we'll monitor that. Ann and I throughout here, my co-host Alexander Williams will also monitor that. We can answer questions that way. Then at the end, what we'll do is we will open the mics, allow you to raise your hand on that toolbar, and we can unmute you and you can ask your questions live at that point. So since we have our co-host Alexander Williams here with us today, he's an expert in all these things we're talking about. We can answer those questions and address those as well going through that. So again, thank you for joining us today. Grab a pen and paper, especially for today's webinar. I'm going to give you some numbers. I'm going to give you just a few things that you may want to remember. We do record these. We put these out on the FREA website. Ann does usually about 24 hours after I get them to her. So sometime middle of the week, those will be out there on the website for you as well. So pay attention for that. Go out and look, and you can follow up afterwards on that. So let's go ahead and get jumping in here, Ann. I know that you've gotten back from Tallahassee. Why don't you tell us what's going on? And then I think you want to have Donna share what her visit was like up there.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Well, I haven't been to Tallahassee all that many times, but I was there for the second time this year with our legislative committee, who is just the most amazingly hardworking committee that I think FREA has. Not that the other committees don't do a terrific job, but these are the guys that are actually the boots on the ground. And they have those boots running around those hallways in Tallahassee. And they spoke to every senator, every state senator that there was in Tallahassee, with the exception of a few who just had closed doors and they could not get in to see them. And it wasn't that they didn't try several times, but that's almost 100 senators. Then we also went to, at least I believe they went to over 100 of your legislative representatives. There are 165, 70 in the state of Florida. And Donna can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, because she is a legislative powerhouse. And this was her first experience with FREA, but she is no stranger to the halls of Tallahassee. So how was it being there as a representative of FREA today, Donna?
It was a little different, but it was very much the same. It was a lot of head nodding and agreeing, but you could read their eyes and tell that they were not really taking to heart what you were saying. One of the best things to me that came out of the whole, I would say, adventure is that we were told, you may not get what you're here for, but do not give up. Because the first time your legislators, your senators feel like you're on the back burner is when they will start moving things rapidly. And we're going to see that today in the Senate, I'm afraid. So if anybody that can go that is a retired educator, please get in touch with John or Ann or Edwina and do what you can do. But the powerhouse in numbers is incredible. I've been a part of this fight with government since the 60s. So I got involved and an activist my freshman year in college, which was 1969. So it's important. It's important to me personally, but it's also important for me to do this for my grandchildren in the future.
Those are terrific words, Donna, and you are absolutely correct. And somebody said the other day, and it was the best line ever. I always use the line, "We are the speed bumps. We are the ones that slow them down. If we can't stop them altogether, at least we get them long enough to make them think, or even maybe change the election, go through an election cycle." But the one I heard the other day that I absolutely loved was, "If you're not at the table, you're on the menu."
Yep.
That is such a truth in the world of legislation. So by being there and by being in front of them and by being in their faces, we are showing them that we are at the table, and we are definitely not sitting back ever. So thank you, Donna, for your contribution. Did you find that with us, because we are a nonpartisan, our organization tries very hard to be Switzerland, that it makes it a little more interesting to do that tap dancing without partisanship? And it doesn't mean we're not passionate about our priorities, but it just means we kind of have to change our focus a little bit. Did you find that to be an interesting change for you? Because I know you've been very active in other parts of government advocacy.
No, because I feel like, well, first of all, my tap dance shoes don't really fit anymore. But I do feel like that when we are in numbers and there is truth that we are talking, then we become powerful, because it's that old saying of truth to power.
Right.
So I think we've just got to keep laying the facts out there. You know, I'm an old Southern girl, so I definitely believe in you catch a lot more flies with honey. So I think getting confrontational, you know, it's like I bring it, then they bring it worse. So, you know, we just got to learn to, whether it's your party or another party, to me, that doesn't matter when we're talking about our future.
Right in the middle, right in the middle. Thank you. And on that note, because we are coming out of COVID and we're coming out of everything, there's been a lot of unintended consequences to what we've all just lived through for the last few years. John, would you like to go ahead and introduce Elaine and talk a little bit about reading as fundamental and this part of this, and then we'll move on to Alexander and the MASA section.
Absolutely. So as Ann mentioned, COVID has kind of put a speed bump. You talked about speed bumps a little bit in some of the activities that our local units are doing. And so Elaine is volunteered to kind of share with us what Escambia County is up to. So Elaine, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you share with us about your Reading is Fundamental program that you're doing? I think we may have lost Elaine.
Elaine?
The whole picture is still. So Donna, I know you're in that unit.
Wait,
is that
there
correct?
she is.
I'm back again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Pensacola is the oldest Reading is Fundamental organization in the state of Florida. We were affiliated with a national organization until 2011, when we became a 501c3 on our own. And so all the monies that we have are local monies. We've had to apply for grants and everything.
Oh dear.
And 3 times a year. So that means like 6,000 books in the hands of children from underserved areas. And the close down cut off one of our distributions, but then we started back in February, and we have had 5 distributions in February to smaller schools. And we are hoping to see them once again before school is out, so that we will give out at least 4,000 plus books this year. It's been a long 2 years trying to get back in the schools and be an asset to their reading program. We believe that children that have books in their home, the books belong to them, will promote their reading ability, which is so critical.
Elaine, how do you collect? Do you collect just money and then go buy the books, or do you collect books yourself as well?
Well, we have tried, but we like to give new books so that these children have a new book in their hand. So we have a donation celebrations for, and Barnes and Nobles has been a wonderful supporter. We several years ago we started gift wrapping at Christmas, and the donations would really come in there. And then when we could no longer do that, all the community people were asking, where are you? Where are you? When are you coming back? But we still have not started back. But by working with Barnes and Nobles, we got gift cards and plus donations. And so we got some books from them.
Oh, dear.
I think we lost her altogether. Donnie, you want to fill in the last little color on what you're doing in your unit?
Well, like she said, you know, Barnes and Nobles has been a big supporter, but we've also got other supporters like the Pilot Club, the Rotary Club that help out with us. And then just members going out by purchasing books or giving gift cards so that we can buy multiple books of the same thing. And this has actually been 46 years that we've been doing this. So, and Elaine is absolutely amazing at pulling it off because it is a labor of love.
Yep.
Elaine, go ahead and unmute and finish up. Unmute.
I think she's having some technical difficulties, but Donna, that blows me away. 46 years that y'all have been doing this, and
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
number of thousands and thousands of kids who've been helped because of what your unit has done is incredible. So thank you both, ladies, for sharing with us on that. We look forward to that. If your unit wants to be highlighted in a future webinar that we have, feel free to get a hold of Ann. And Donna and Elaine, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for that. If you've got questions for these two ladies, feel free to drop that into chat. Let them ask the questions, how they distribute, how they get the books, how they get the RIF chapter going and stuff like that. So great work, ladies. Donna, Elaine, thank you very much for your help. We appreciate you.
Thank you
And-
for inviting us.
You're welcome.
John, before we move on, Elaine, if you can hear me, show your
Yes.
shirt. Show your shirt, Elaine.
Can you hear her?
I can hear you. Yes.
There we go. Okay, go ahead and show your shirt now, Elaine.
Oh, I found this several years ago and I had, can you see the whole thing?
Yes,
Reading
great.
ma'am.
is fundamental.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
the technical difficulties. We're all very used to it, but
Yep.
I'm
stick
so
around.
sorry.
Stick around, ladies. People do have questions at the end. So
Absolutely. Thank you,
if you
Donna.
want to
Thank
go
you.
off, thank you. Go ahead,
Thank
John.
you.
Just real quick reminder, my name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. I live a little bit north of Houston with my wife, who is a second grade teacher. She teaches in the same school that she and my three kids went to elementary school in. And I've spent the better part of my career in schools helping active educators understand what their retirement years are going to look like. So we love being able to share with you today. Alexander Williams in the great bright pink tie today is our co-host. And he lives in Alabama, but he's responsible for Southern Florida area. And I'm going to have him share a little bit in a moment just about who some of the competitors are in the conversation we're going to talk about, but get to know him a little bit more as we go through here. So just a quick reminder, and Donna brought this home pretty closely. FREA, what they do on your behalf to make sure that your pension is safe, to make sure that any type of benefits, raises, pay raises for those current active teachers out there, all those things that are important to you as a retiree, FREA is there on your behalf. And because we're coming out of COVID, keeping us connected together, keeping you connected locally as a whole state association. I know that Ann is busily working on the upcoming event coming up in May in Orlando to make sure we all get in together, and then partnering with folks like AMBA to make sure that we provide you other discounts, exclusive benefits, things like that. That's what FREA does on your behalf. I know our relationship with AMBA and FREA is fairly new. Just a quick reminder, we serve about 40 states and 75 associations just like yours, retired and active educators, state employees all across the country. We have 3 gentlemen who are leaders in your area, tremendous individuals. Eric Cannon has Central Florida. Alexander Williams, our co-host today, has Southern Florida, and Sam has the Panhandle. And these guys are there to help you. They're also there to come out to your local units. If you get back meeting in person or want to have somebody on Zoom, contact these guys, contact Ann, contact myself, whatever you want to do. I'm sure they'll come out. I've seen pictures of Alexander and his fiance all out there celebrating with you, raising money for your charities and things that you do. So again, get these guys involved with your local units and help them add value to what you're providing to your members and to your prospective members. Because as Donna talked about, the more people we can take to Tallahassee, and we've got tens of thousands of people behind us, it makes a difference. So it's a great opportunity to invite your fellow coworkers, people you used to work with, to your local units, get them to become involved as a member of FREA. So make sure that you do that. Just a quick reminder, a couple of things from the standpoint of the advantages of having your benefits with FREA and AMBA. They can cover those gaps that whenever you left the schoolhouse that you don't have coverage for. They're portable. We've got many members on this call that live outside the state of Florida. And so you can take them anywhere you want to. They're not tied to anything in regards to a network there. And you can extend these benefits to your family both ways. You can extend them to parents if you still have parents who are alive, or you can extend them to adult children who may not have benefits on their own. They just need to become a member of FREA and take advantage of that. So there are some benefits to that. We're talking about today about the medical air services benefit, but we want to couch this in an educational conversation. And that's why I've got Alexander here to share with us today. We're going to talk about the golden hour. And because Florida is such a unique state in its geography, the golden hour is even more important than ever. And we're going to talk about some of the issues and costs around emergency transportation in the state of Florida. We're going to locate and look at where those level 1 trauma centers are, because I was surprised with the state as populated as you have, how few that you had and how scattered out they were. And then discuss the conversation around insurance and Medicare, what pays and doesn't pay, introduce you to a new surprise billing law that just went into effect the first part of this year. Now kind of fill you in on how that impacts emergency transportation, just so that you've got peace of mind, whether you're traveling more or whether you're at home, that you know what your options are from the standpoint of FREA and AMBA. So let's jump in and talk about the golden hour. The golden hour was termed or coined this term, Dr. R. Adams Crowley. He's a teaching physician up in a teaching hospital in the Northeast, but they think it kind of, the concept originated in the World War I battlefields in France. But it's that hour immediately after a traumatic accident. Could be an accident, could be an injury, something like that, in which medical treatment is given, can prevent irreversible internal damage and can even increase your chance of survival. So as a result of this, Dr. Adams or Dr. Crowley has really spent a lot of time not only helping emergency rooms get better in their staffing, in their skills, and in their technology, but also transferring that to the emergency transportation industry, so that that kind of care can be taken as you're getting to where you need to be to improve your survivability and your healing process out there. The problem with that comes now is that you start to see the increase in cost for ambulance bills. You know, they're getting higher all the time. They're getting a lot more expensive. And then all of a sudden surprise bills jump in, or certain counties raise their rates depending on what's going out there. So all these ambulance situations, and I'm talking ground ambulance, air ambulance, fixed wing, whatever it is, all the different type of ambulance services are going up, 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 which creates even more of a financial challenge on top of any type of medical healing that takes place there. So the Department of Health and Human Services did a quick survey here a few years ago and looked at not only who uses these services, but also what reasons out there. And you see women are about 59% of the users, men a little bit over 40% out there of the users for emergency medical service over the age of 65. And the top 5 reasons that people use emergency medical services, number 1 by far is heart attack and stroke. That's the biggest reason why someone uses an emergency transportation. Then you've got traumatic accidents, car accidents, things like that, neurological disorders, confusion, things of that nature that people need ambulance transportation, respiratory distress, whether it be just pneumonia, something of that nature, or something that they're exposed to a chemical, something of that resort, and then falls. Those are the top 5 reasons that people over age 65 need some form of emergency transportation. So when you've got that, you've got to worry about, well, where am I going? Where am I going out there? There are 4 classifications of emergency room trauma centers. Level 1s are the best of the best. These are oftentimes teaching hospitals in major metropolitan areas that have not only the equipment, but they're open 24/7. They have the physicians, they have the specialists, they have all of those things all available all around the clock. And oftentimes the pediatric version as well as the adult version. Your level 2s, maybe not be a research facility. They've got the equipment, but maybe not all the specialists all the time. They may have a specialist on call that they have to bring in from somewhere else. Then you get down to your level 3s and your level 4s. I call some of these doc in a box type situations. Their main goal is really just to stabilize you and then move you on to a facility that can take care of you more. So what happens is the further you live away from a level 1 or level 2 trauma center, the more expensive that transportation cost is, because oftentimes they've either got to fly you if it's something incredibly severe, or they get you there by ground ambulance, stabilize you, and then fly you to somewhere else or transfer you. So the costs add up in that regards. And so here's a quick look at the state of Florida. All across the country, or excuse me, all across the state, there are 9 level 1 trauma centers. Those are marked there in that with the red pluses. Out of the 325 hospitals in the state, 9 level 1s out there. The couple that are in the process of becoming provisional level 1s. Then you get your yellow crosses, yellow plus marks. Those are your level 2s. Then you get even further out, your level in your smaller hospitals out there. So again, you can see, depending upon where you are in the Panhandle or all the way down in the Keys, sometimes your access to that medical care from a trauma center is a little bit more restricted than what you may need out there. So that just kind of shows you from a geographical standpoint. I know many of you know where you are. We've got our ladies from Pensacola that have joined us. You see what's going on up there. Then we have a lot of folks down there on the Treasure Coast down there in the south that join us as well. So that's a look at where these major trauma centers are in the state of Florida. And you can see, possibly based on where you live, what your transportation needs may be out there. Well, most folks tell us all the time, and they tell Alexander every day, I'm covered by insurance, or I've got Medicare. Here's what's going on. The challenge behind this, now, whether you're Medicare eligible or not, or whether you are with a commercial carrier through a spouse or something like that, or through the school district, they will only pay for usual and customary charges. I'm going to explain that a little bit greater in depth in a moment. Basically, what it means is that the insurance company has determined that the most we're going to pay for this ambulance service is X dollars. The ambulance service on top of that can say, we're going to charge Y dollars, and we're responsible for something over that. Medicare language comes in is even more tricky, because they have a payment schedule based on a certain very tightly approved fee schedule based on their approvals. And if the provider charges more than that schedule allows, you're responsible for the difference in that transportation cost. And that coverage depends upon the seriousness on which you may or may not have needed. To give you an example, you may be out in the front yard tending to the flowers or something like that, gets a little hot, and your neighbor finds you laying out in the yard. Well, they don't know what happened, so they call an ambulance and they transfer you in. After the fact, Medicare could say you could have been transported by a car or by a taxi or by an Uber. You didn't need an ambulance, and they won't pay at all. So even if you have insurance, there's a great exposure out there to the expenses on top of that. And in Florida, just like in Texas where I live, what we find is that more than 2/3, in Texas it's 75%, a little less than 75% of emergency ambulance providers in your state are not part of any network. So that even increases your chances of having an expense outside of what you're covered by your insurance company. So basically what it's saying is that most ambulance providers in the state of Florida do not participate in networks and are not then required to have any billing standards. They can bill what they want to. This is a study from the Kaiser Family Foundation out there that found so many more surprise bills that people were not expecting because they thought they had insurance. The federal government tried to tackle this back at the first of the year. They put a law in back late last year to go into effect this year. It was part of the COVID-19 bill that came in 2020. So went into effect first of this year. Basically what it does is tries to eliminate those surprise billing issues across anything in the medical field. So if you are getting ready to have a procedure done, what it says is that the hospital or the primary provider that's going to be billing you has to tell you if there are any out-of-network providers within your procedure. Could be an out-of-network radiologist that reads your exams or reads your CT scans, things like that. And they have to let you know up to 3 days prior to the procedure. So that's great. That's fine and good. So that eliminates some of those surprise bills. It may allow you to say, I want to choose an in-network doctor, something like that. Doesn't impact copays, doesn't impact deductibles, co-insurance clauses, things like that. Gives all the provisions on how do you use a third-party dispute resolution, that type of thing. What it does not cover is ground ambulance. Ground ambulance providers are not part of this bill. So they can still surprise bill, for lack of a better term, you regardless out there. It does impact air ambulance providers, but only to the point of what the hospital, which means the insurance company says is usual and customary. So again, the insurance company can say usual and customary is $20,000. We're going to cover whatever percentage our plan says we're going to cover. You're responsible for not only what's over $20,000, but then what the provider, their ambulance provider charges you out there. So even though the federal government tried to make this law better for us as consumers, it really didn't impact the ambulance providers, either ground or air, just because there's so many of them out there. There are some places that there's not a lot of them that they didn't want to restrict or have ambulance services go out of business as a result of this. Here's some of the Medicare language. The thing I love about Medicare, it's a very good plan. The thing I don't love about Medicare is they have very qualifying language, and I highlighted this in here. You're going to see they may pay for emergency transportation. They may pay for limited medical necessary non-emergency transportation if the doctor says you have to have it to transfer somewhere else. You still have deductibles, you still have copays as part of Part B, those type of things, but just know that Medicare can decide whether they pay for it or not, just based on their qualifying language. And then when you get in the ambulance, whether it's an air ambulance, whether it's a ground ambulance, there are certain type of care, basic life support and advanced life support, that Medicare will and won't pay. They'll pay for basic life support, CPR, giving you oxygen, splinting up your leg, things like that, bandaging a wound. But if you get into an ambulance with a paramedic or an air ambulance where they're doing those advanced life support services, EKGs, chest decompression, the manual defibrillation, those type of things, needle decompression, IVs, that advanced life support stuff is not covered by Medicare. Even though you may need it because of the golden hour, they're not going to cover it at Medicare. And I'm going to show you a couple of live expenses here, live bills that some of our members experience, and show you how those costs can really add up. And Medicare doesn't pay for that, even though you need that. Okay, so here's a couple of looks at some real bills. Some of these are in Texas, some are in California. Don't have any Florida bills yet that I can show you, but I can tell you that we've got lots of people who've used this. So there's a top bill up there, $1,300 just to dispatch the ambulance, 20 miles, $420. So you see out there was a $1,700 charge. Insurance paid $375 of that, leaving the individual with over $1,300 that they were responsible for. At the bottom, just 9 miles, still left them with a bill of over $1,000 that insurance did not pay for, that this individual was responsible for having out of their pocket. Then up at the top, even 4 miles. Still, doesn't matter whether you're transported 9 miles, 90 miles, 4 miles, there's still a pretty good charge out there based on mileage, based on just starting up. And then if you have to have an air ambulance dispatched, depending upon where you are, doesn't matter if you're urban or way out in the country, they can dispatch an air ambulance depending upon the situation. You see, just to get the helicopter turned on was $33,000 out there. Flew 25 miles at $296 a mile, another $7,400. And then all of these other expenses out here for administering medication, doing blood pressure, all these type of things like that adds up as well. This is a situation, a very good payer in California, Blue Cross Blue Shield, very good payer, $41,000 expense totally for 25-mile air ambulance ride. They paid $33,000 of that bill, but that still left the patient with an $8,300 bill. So you can see ambulance transportation, and if you've ever ridden an ambulance before, you know it can be very expensive, can add up out there. And while we can't prevent those bad things from happening, we can be prepared when they do happen towards us. And that's where FREA and AMBA have stepped up to provide you a couple of options out there. One of them is through the Medical Air Services Association. It's any ground ambulance, any air ambulance, anywhere in the world, not just in your backyard, not just in the state of Florida or in America. So I kind of want to walk you through how this works. First of all, let me explain who MASA is. MASA is the pioneer. They're the leader in this field out there. They've got over 2 million members and growing every day. They've been around for over 47 years. They enjoy a stellar rating through the Better Business Bureau. They have not only the ability to cover all your bills in terms of the medical expense that you'd have through transportation, they have staffing on staff all across the world to help you in your transportation issues. And I'll show you how that kind of works in a moment. But the biggest thing for you, you have no dollar limit. Doesn't matter what your transportation cost needs are, whether it's local, whether you're overseas, whether you're down in the Keys, it does not matter. Your costs are covered 100%. There's nothing out of your pocket for emergency transportation costs. And it's pretty broad what's out there. I want to show you a couple of quick testimonial letters. This is a situation from a client in Fort Worth, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, in a suburb. Doesn't live too far away from the hospital, but her husband was having a stroke during rush hour, and they couldn't get an ambulance to him in time. So what they had to do is dispatch an air ambulance. So the helicopter landed right down in the street, got him taken care of, got him to the hospital, just took care of him. His health is fine now because they got him within that golden hour. Come to find out, that bill was close to $25,000 just to fly from a suburb into the city to get him taken care of. MASA took care of that bill 100%. Here's another one. And as we're getting out traveling more, this is a retired teacher that loved to travel. And she was down in Mexico on those pyramids, those ruins down there in Mexico, and she fell and broke her leg. And MASA did a couple of things here. She was having, and it pains me to even think about it, she was having problems getting her leg properly set in Mexico. So MASA dispatched an air flight down to pick her up to try to save her leg and her mobility, and then fly her back to get the care that she needed. That was really cool about that is she regained her ability to walk, regained her ability to travel, and MASA picked up everything. So it wasn't just the transportation aspect, it was the speed in getting her back repatriated into America to get the care that she needed out there. So it's pretty incredible of what's going on, and how MASA took care of not only her expenses, but saved her mobility and her ability to go back and start traveling again. It's out there. MASA is unique. It's not an insurance product. It's a membership product. It's a supplement to your health insurance coverage or Medicare, whichever you have. It gives you protection for your finances, for all your life-saving emergencies, 100% of the time, away from home or at home, doesn't matter. It's available to you. MASA provides the emergency air transportation, be it helicopter, fixed wing aircraft. It provides ground ambulance transportation. So most people use it for ground ambulance, and that's okay. Again, we talk about repatriation and recuperation. If you need to fly somewhere back to your home or be transferred back so that you can recuperate, it does that as well. Return transportation. We tell a lot of members all across the country, if you're going down to Disney World with the kids and grandkids and something happens to you, it will fly you back as well as your minor children and grandchildren, or your spouse, non-injury transport back to you as well. It will bring your car back. If you go somewhere and you pass away, it will bring your mortal remains back. So there's all sorts of coverages that are provided to you out there. I'm going to ask Alexander Williams to jump in here real quick and share with us kind of how he has seen some of his clients use MASA and why they become members of MASA. Alexander, you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for having me on here this morning. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Alexander Williams. I actually live in Birmingham, but I have been making a point to travel to the great state of Florida more and more often. So I will probably end up moving there sooner than later. You guys have just that good of an impression on me. But for the MASA program, and again, that's the Medical Air Services Association. It's air and ground transport, just as John was saying. But what is so special about that program is that it doesn't use a network. So no matter what picks you up, you're guaranteed to be paid. It doesn't discriminate as to what you get done on board. So whether you've got basic life-saving procedures or advanced life-saving procedures, you're 100% paid. We're covering your health insurance deductible and your Medicare deductible. So now those are both down at zero. So it's the only true $0, 100% coverage I've ever seen in the industry. One question that we get a lot is EA Plus. That is a program that's been around for a very long time in Florida. It's a great program. The downside to that program, and really where MASA and the Retirement Association program sets themselves apart, is with EA Plus, you have to be traveling. If you have a heart attack at home, EA Plus does you no good. It is simply a travel plan. Now, if you are traveling, they do a lot of great things like luggage return, car return. They'll get you to a hospital, things like that. The other downside with EA Plus is that you have to be hospitalized. With MASA, it does not matter if you're hospitalized or not. They'll get you to the emergency room and you might leave, an hour later because it was acid reflux instead of a heart attack, something silly like that. So it happens more and more frequently than we think. But with MASA, there's no questions asked, which creates the 100% peace of mind. So it's individualized for retirees. It's been around for a long time and it's really spread like wildfire with the way that the Affordable Care Act and all the surprise billing stuff has changed health insurance in the last few years. And the other thing that's interesting about the Surprise Billing Act, and it's called the No Surprises Act for those of you who are really good at Google, you can go read all about it. The No Surprises Act is actually not anything new for Medicare retirees. So surprise billing was actually outlawed for Medicare just over 5 years ago under Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act. But what's interesting about that is that the Medicare approved amount is at the end of the day the only thing that matters for what your bill is. So every ambulance in the United States, it all flows through what's called the Airline Deregulation Act. Now that happened in 1978 to protect the Federal Aviation Administration from charging too much on ambulance coverage. In 1978, air transportation was not nearly as frequent as what it is today. So we've got something that is 50 years old governing our transportation that we're using today, which is why these bills have gotten so expensive. So, one thing that, and John said it best, MASA works alongside your health insurance. It eliminates the surprises. It gives you the peace of mind, whether it's a true emergency or it just happens to you think it's an emergency and it maybe wasn't one. They're going to pay that bill 100 times out of 100 times. So, John, that's kind of the 1,000-foot view of what I can give to that program. I hope we've got some more specific questions as the slides go on too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alexander. And again, if you've got questions, drop them into chat. We have some great questions. We'll kind of address those a little bit, but Alexander is also addressing them individually as you go through here. So you kind of see how it works that way. So let's kind of look at it in real life. Let's say that you went down to the Keys and you had a heart attack, but you live up in Pensacola, up in the Panhandle. So you go down to the Keys, you have a heart attack down there, they're going to take you by ambulance from Key West a little bit further in to there's a hospital somewhere, I think, right in the middle of the Keys as you're rolling in that way. And then they determine you've got to be flown over to Miami. You've got to be flown to another hospital to get taken care of at that point. And then once you're all taken care of, they say, you know what, you can't drive back. We'll fly you back, but then we'll also need to get your car back somehow. So there's 4 different services that MASA will pay 100% of what you don't have covered out there. So not only do they pay for it, they will help coordinate some of these things as well. That return transportation, returning your car back as well, those type of things. So that's in real life how it works just in your own state, not to mention your backyard, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, they do the same thing out there. So they'll be glad to take care of you that way. Now, we had a member ask on the phone, on the chat, does this come with our FREA membership? It's not part automatically of your FREA membership, but membership in FREA has its privileges, to borrow from somebody else's tagline here. All members in FREA receive a 40% discount off of MASA. They also get their membership fee waived. As I mentioned to you, this is a membership program, not insurance. So there's a membership fee. You can purchase this out on the open market, but you don't get the discount by being an FREA member, and you don't get your $60 membership fee waived. And then exclusively for FREA members, there's no claims paperwork and there's 24/7 support. So it's a little bit different than what is out available to you on the open market out there. So again, it doesn't automatically come with your FREA membership, but because you are FREA members, you get a substantial discount, waiving the membership fee and the other benefits that come along with that as well. At home, across the state, across the world, ground, air transportation does not matter out there. These are the pricing options that are available to you. Some people say, well, John, how much is it? And I say, well, it's less than the cost of a cup of coffee. And they say, well, I drink a $6 latte every day at Starbucks. No, we're talking about a 7-Eleven cup of coffee out there for an individual member, $27 a month, $35 a month for a family. And we'll have Alexander kind of explain here in a moment the different plans in terms of what constitutes a family. Then you see you've got a 5-year option, and then you see you have a lifetime option. And I'm going to share with you some benefits of lifetime and 5-year in just a moment. Then I'll have Alexander explain the grandchildren versus the minor children, that kind of stuff like that in just a moment. So for those of you who are looking at a 5-year or a lifetime membership, there's a free feature that comes along with it. It's the My ID bracelet. You can get it in the bracelet form, or you can get just the little QR code tag there. The thing I love about this is that you can, and Alexander and his team will help you out do this, help you to fill out that QR code information so that whenever you're in an emergency, paramedics, EMTs are trained to look for that on an Apple Watch band, on a diabetes band, whatever it is, and know what your medications are, who your doctor is, what your contact information is. Especially great if you're traveling, because then they can call the 24/7 live support at MASA and already have all of that information and can send it on ahead to the hospital that you're being taken to. So again, it gives you even greater peace of mind, maximizes that golden hour to take care of you. So Alexander, I know we get a lot of questions about, does it cover all my family? Does it cover who's in my household? What happens if I've got grandkids and I'm on vacation with them? How does that all work for the different plans?
Great question. And it's a question that we get a lot. Retirees typically don't sit still, from what I've learned. Most of us get busier when we retire, which we have got to work on. We're supposed to de-escalate and avoid heart attacks, I think, as Sandy said. So, but a family membership is going to be the member plus a spouse, and then any dependent children under the age of 26. Now, if let's say that you've got a child over the age of 26, they're really interested in being protected, you're interested in protecting them, you can actually refer a membership through MASA to them directly. So they would get the exact same association discount as you would. So you can refer your benefits that way to your adult children. Your grandchildren, when you are traveling with MASA or you need MASA coverage as a whole, your grandchildren are going to have the exact same coverage with you. So if they're ever with you and you're on a trip and God forbid something happens, they're going to get transported just like you would as well. So MASA really is it's a family plan. Even if you don't have a family plan, they're going to make sure that the peace of mind is there for everyone traveling with you, not just for you as the individual member. So the formal membership program, you and a spouse, and then any children under the age of 26. And then for those folks who want to refer the membership to their adult children, they would be able to put their kids or your grandkids on there as well.
Great. Thank you, sir, very much. We had a question in there about TRICARE. We've got so many members that have military backgrounds in the state of Florida. We appreciate your service. Alexander was a Marine. He understands, he's got TRICARE, so he can help explain to you how that works and what the TRICARE connection is. But just bottom line, you need MASA. You're not always near a TRICARE facility, is where it comes out to that. So be glad to take any questions you've got. Again, drop them into chat. Alexander's been answering those things. If you want to hold up your hand and we can take you live, and we can do that as well. If you want to know more about MASA, I'm going to recommend that you take your smartphone, open up your smartphone camera, and simply hover over that QR code. Just like we do kind of in the restaurants these days, hover over that QR code. A little form's going to pop up, and I'm going to show you in a moment what that form's going to look like and everything. You'll be able to do that. I see Donna's doing that right now. I love it. So you don't take a picture of it, just hover over it. A form will pop up. And then what's going to happen when that form pops up, you're going to see that little thing at the top. You see website QR code Amber Review. You'll hit that. This screen will pop up. You can scroll down and you can select benefit review. You can hit MASA. All of the things that AMBA and FREA partner together with, you can select those things, fill out your information, and then hit submit. That will go right to Alexander or Sam or to Eric, depending upon what part of the state that you live, and they will give you a shout and be able to take care of that for you as well. All right. Just a couple of quick reminders. We're going to wrap up the first quarter. The first quarter has gone amazingly fast, and it's blowing me away how fast this year's going. We're going to do all about long-term care. If you have not joined us before, when we've had our long-term care conversations, we get really, we'll dig, and then we'll dig a little deeper, just simply because we want you to understand. Many of the members on the call usually have a long-term care plan. They want to know about it. How does it work? We'll just break down all the different components of it. We'll address what Medicare does and doesn't pay. We'll go into some of the law changes. We'll give you some stats, the costs and things like that of what long-term care, whether it's home health aid, assisted living, what it costs in Florida and different parts of the state. So many different pieces of information out there for you for that. Make sure you pay attention to the emails that Ann sends out the week before, and you can jump in on that. So again, a reminder, tell your friends, your family about these webinars, especially this upcoming long-term care webinar. I would encourage you to invite your children, simply because that conversation that you have with them, and I've started to have this with my mom a little more. Those of you who've been on these calls know that my father spent 2 years in a nursing home before he passed away in October of 2020. And having that conversation, how do you want to be taken care of? All those things are so important out there. This is the best way to get introduced. And as Donna mentioned, this is the best way to bring non-members in and help them become a member of FREA. What a great testimony. We're now well over 10,000. Is that correct, Ann?
Yes, sir, we are.
Pretty exciting. I love to get the report every Monday and see 20, 30 new members. It's really cool.
Yeah, let me take a look here and see exactly where we are.
So keep those questions coming. We're going to answer those here in just a moment. And then, but it does make a difference. We can go up and say we've got 10,000, 11,000 members.
10,247 members as of this morning. So we're climbing.
We're climbing all in the right direction, which is great. This is a great way to introduce your friends and family to FREA and help them become members of FREA. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Alexander, were there any questions that came through in chat that maybe the whole group needs to hear? If you want to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand on your toolbar. We can unmute you as well. QR code's there. My email address is there. If you can't use that QR code for whatever reason, simply email me, jon.green@amba.info, and I'll be glad to get you connected with Alexander or his team.
Yeah, and there were two really good questions that came through the chat. Jody, I love having you on these calls. You always have really, really good questions. So When you have MASA and you need to use it, the most important thing to do is call 911 first. Because there is no network or pre-authorization required for MASA like there is with Medicare, all you have to do is call 911, and then you call me, Eric, or Sam, or MASA. Whenever things stabilize, you're treated, everything is taken care of, your health is the most important thing, and then we'll take care of that bill on the back end. Now, let's say worst case scenario, you get the bill sent to you directly before we can get it taken care of. All you have to do is take a copy or a picture of that bill. You send it to me. I'll make sure MASA pays that bill directly to the hospital for you. That way you don't have to worry about writing a check. You can shred that bill, throw it away, whatever you would like to do with it. So we take care of everything on the back end, but your health is always the most important thing. So be sure that you call 911 first. And then Miss Meredith also had a great question. Where does MASA cover you? It's going to make sure that you're covered at home, the grocery, at church, with your grandkids, out of state, out of the country. No matter where you go, you are always going to be covered. And so if you're in a foreign country, you have the exact same coverage. You will have your life flight assistance that will get you back to the United States. Now, what they're going to do when they get you back to the US, it's not going to take you directly to your home city. It's going to take you to whatever hospital on the coast that can get you treated in the most appropriate form. So whatever it takes you to, let's say it takes you to New York if you're over in Europe, gets you to New York, gets you treated, then it's going to fly you back down to Florida or wherever else you live. So however many flights it takes, you're going to be 100% covered coming from that foreign country. Now, the only time that it will not cover you in a foreign country is if the Department of State or Department of Defense has put out a warning of an ongoing conflict. So if anyone on this call wants to go to Ukraine or Russia right now, you do not have MASA coverage. I cannot explain that enough. So just keep that in mind. But yes, in a foreign country, you're always covered.
You brought up a great point. We're in Florida. People are starting to get on cruise ships, starting to go down to the Caribbean and all that. What do they need to do if they're a MASA member before they go overseas or before they get out of the country?
Great question. So the only thing that MASA asks, now they're never going to deny your coverage if you're out of country for any reason, but they do ask to do some homework to let them be a little bit more efficient. So what they ask is if you know that you've got a trip coming up, then what they're going to do is they ask that you let MASA know, or you let myself or Sam or Eric know that you're going to be traveling within the next 30 days. So they just ask for a 30-day notice of when you're going to be out of the country. That way they can have someone at MASA on standby for your trip. That just makes them that much more efficient at what they do. Now, let's say you don't give that 30-day notice. They're not going to deny your bill, but things like language assistance, cash deposit advance, those things may take a little bit more time without that 30-day advance, but they just ask for that advance so they can be a little bit more efficient at what they do.
Great point.
And
Alexander, go ahead.
I am not in a foreign country. I do live in Alabama. I don't know if that's the question or not. Alabama may seem like a foreign country to those of you who live in Florida. But no, I live in Birmingham, just south of the city with my fiance here. And we are very, very much looking into the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area for a home in the future. So just for my folks who live down there.
But you bring up a great point, Alexander. MASA is, because of that foreign travel benefit that you have, they will not necessarily pre-position medical resources in the country that you're going to, but they will put on alert people that they have available out there. Translators, financial cash assistance, airplane. That golden hour is so crucial in your recovery. And MASA has that scope and scale across the world that they can provide those services to you. So, that's why they ask you to let them know. Now, they'll tell you if you're going to Canada, they'll say, don't worry about it. We got that. That's just like America North, from the perspective that they have. But if you're going anywhere else, Mexico or anywhere down in the islands, something like that, you absolutely want to let them know up front. And then, like I said, they can have things pre-positioned. They just know where their members are. They love to take care of their members that way. So we'll open up for just a couple more minutes of questions. Ann, is there anything you want to share with the group about preparing for May's big event?
The convention is coming. It will be May. It is the 23rd to the 26th or 24th to the 26th. Because we do have people come in early for meetings all on the 23rd. It is called the Wizard of Oz. And we are doing the message of the Wizard of Oz. This will be expounded on in the bulletin that I am busily putting together right now, but it will be expounded on in the bulletin. The Wizard of Oz was all about teamwork. And it was also all about the fact that you can also count on yourself. But what FREA is here to do is to be your team. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things to take away from these webinars is we are your team. We got your back. And so we want to be able to be here for you. We are protecting your pension. We are trying to make your lives easier. We are not here to make your lives harder. We're not here to be a problem. FREA is here to help you solve your problems. And the office is here for exactly that reason, shameless plug. But Diane and I are here, and we do handle 10,000 plus members, and we are actually sort of almost able to do it efficiently. If you don't hear from us immediately when you send us an email, we will get back to you within 24 hours if the office is not closed because we're at convention, let's say. But otherwise, the office is here for you. So any questions you may have, feel free to get a hold of us. If you can't find any of the phone numbers you saw in this webinar, go to the website. All those phone numbers are also on the website. Save yourself some trouble. You can do it that way. Anything legislative, Donna spoke about it today. We have a terrific legislative resource page on the website. Please go there and look. Another shameless plug. But that's just something that FREA is not here just to collect $35 a year in dues. We are here for your benefit, to help you, and also to give you access to some other terrific programs. I have MASA. I have our dental and vision. I tried to sign up for long-term care, but full disclosure, by the time you get to my age, it's a little pricey. So for anybody that's young in your family, I would advise them the sooner you sign up. It's probably a lot more affordable than the price I was given. I'm just going to have to keep with my MASA and pray that everything goes good and I stay healthy. But I want to thank everybody for being here. John, Alexander, of course, capital job. We're trying to import Alexander and John into the convention to do this presentation in person for convention in one of our breakout sessions, and they'll be able to tell a lot of more great stuff. That's it for me. The only thing I have left to say, one more thing, Alexander, I did do the Skyway 10K yesterday. And
I saw that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I survived. That's the congratulations. And I didn't need MASA to get me off the bridge. For anybody that doesn't know the St. Pete area, the Skyway is a huge, huge bridge that goes across Tampa Bay, and it's big enough for cruise ships to go under. So the grade on it is pretty substantial. I do not run it. I walk it. I'm not that young, but I had a great time, and it's for the military. It benefits the armed forces, military families, and I do it for that reason and that reason alone. So I want to thank Alexander again. I also have family in military, and I know that the Panhandle is a big military area, and I'm very excited that we have a Scambio with us today, and thank you. That's it. I'm done. Go, John.
All right, and real quick question. Can they start to register yet on the website for the convention? Is it
you would put me on the spot. No, but
okay.
It will be up by the end of the week.
Right.
I'm redoing the forms. FREA is never easy. That's the other part of it. I have 3 different registration forms I have to put together: delegate, board and trustee, and general. So we're getting close, but we're not there yet. But it will be very, very shortly.
Look on the website for that. It is in Orlando at the hotel right connected to
Doubletree Hilton at SeaWorld.
Yep.
Doubletree Hilton. Thank you.
John.
Yes, ma'am, Donna.
John, this is Donna. I just had one quick thing I did want to say very quickly, because we're talking about teamwork. The team that went to Tallahassee this time, they were incredible. Even though I'm now officially a retiree, I felt like the new kid on the block going with a new group. And they were not only welcoming They were compassionate about what they were doing, and they were appreciative of every single person that was there. And I wanted to do a shout out to the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love working with all of you. Alexander and I are so privileged to work with the FREA and nonstop professionalism. So we're looking forward to getting down there more often. So it's the bottom of the hour. I appreciate your time with us. Alexander, as always, thank you so much for being here. We will see everyone on the 22nd, on the 21st. And we're going to have, by that point, we'll have the registration process for the convention. We'll talk about long-term care. If you've got any questions, I'll leave this screen up for just a few more seconds and be glad to answer those for you. So have a great rest of your week.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
one last thing. John and I already talked about this because I am coming full bore into convention and it is so time consuming and I am one person. We will be dropping to only one Manic Monday webinar in April and May. And we'll pick it back up again later in the year, although I know people in the summertime are busy. We will pick the pace back up again, back into the year, but only one in April and May, guys. Only one. So many hours in a day, and I'm already up to 28 a day.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.